This is the 46 of 46 podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 46 of 46 podcast. This week I have a Summit Session episode in store for you all, and an extremely unique one at that. You may remember back in October of 2020 where I released a month of episodes that I dubbed the October Sessions, a play on the Summit Sessions, which were all Halloween-themed spooky shows revolving around the Adirondacks. Well, from doing those episodes and the handful of Bigfoot in the Adirondacks episodes and stories that came out of the October Sessions, I learned that a lot of you listeners also find the whole Bigfoot phenomena as fascinating as I do. And there's a lot to that subject, and I recently came across a brand new documentary film entitled On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey, where a group of researchers and filmmakers do what they do: head into the woods in search of answers regarding the mysterious creature known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or the dozens of other names that other cultures have referred to it as. This film, however, takes place, and the research was done, right here in the Adirondack Park. Perfect. The film's crew spent time in both the High Peaks region as well as the Lake George region of the park. And I also learned that filmmaker, who's from Ohio, listens to this very podcast. So clearly I had to have him on the show to discuss both the Adirondacks and Bigfoot, two subjects that I clearly enjoy very much. His name is Seth Breedlove. He's from Ohio, and he runs a series called Small Town Monsters, where he investigates and explores lost and bizarre history around the United States, focusing on small town folklore, and then they tell stories through the words and experiences of those who were affected by such strange and bizarre phenomena, namely the residents and the witnesses. It's very interesting stuff. So if you're into this sort of thing, or even if you're not, you should check out smalltownmonsters.com to get an idea about all the films Seth and his crew have created. They have over 10 different films and different series that they've released to date, so there's a lot of content to check out. But before I bring Seth onto the show, I'd like to introduce another guest for this week's episode, and coincidentally, another Ohio native, who I thought, since in a lot of the listeners' minds we come as a bit of a package deal regarding the subject in the Adirondacks, it felt appropriate to bring him on the show and have some fun and chat Bigfoot once again. Here he is, Mr. Jonathan Zaharek.
Hey.
He is back, and we are going to talk Bigfoot once again. Jonathan, thanks for stopping by.
Incredible.
It's great to have you here. You have been nonstop lately. Out in the woods every day. You are just somewhere else on some other high peak, linking like the Dix Range, and then like you're going all the way to like Cascade and Porter, and then you're going all the way to Whiteface, all in the same day. Yeah. Not really that link, but like you're doing some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, even yesterday, like I did Gray and Skylight, and I was on Skylight for sunrise for the eclipse. It was absolutely incredible. Brought a large group out there, and it was absolutely insane.
Phenomenal. I saw the pictures. Incredible. But you are like, I'm actually like proud of you. You have like a little brother kind of essence in my brain, and from you going for the FKT last year, and me thinking in my brain, you know, you're like a kid going after Ryan Atkins, who's like a man, and now you're like, you've created this man strength in you, and you're doing these huge trips now, huge mileage, and I'm seeing like your physical capacity for what you're doing is increasing and increasing and increasing, and you are on your way to doing, I mean, you're already doing these absolutely crazy hikes before that, but now you're absolutely destroying them, and I think that's a testament to you continuing to be out there and improving and getting stronger and just doing it. So congrats to you, and I mean that genuinely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's it's kind of weird how the life of a trail runner, and I guess doing these things, it's not something that you kind of choose. It kind of chooses you just as much as a lot of things in here. Because it's like I'm going for my grid 46 now, and like I'm helping a lot of people trying to achieve certain goals and tagging along with them for the summer, and really just trying to stretch myself as much as I can, actually getting in competitions, racing other people, and actually putting my times against other people's times. And it's a whole different culture. I'm not expecting every single person to understand why, instead of being able to go out and just enjoy a nice secluded quiet hike in the Dix Mountain Wilderness, that I have to go and try to get that in under 4 hours. It's like
sure.
It's its own world, and it brings me so much enjoyment. And it's how I guess you could say I quote hike my own hike. And yeah, I'm just it's seeing this place in a new way, and it brings a new thing out of you. Because we all discover something in ourselves when we're hiking out there. And this is just, what I see manifest the greatest desire of the outdoors for me.
Yeah, you're doing a fantastic job, and you're absolutely crushing it out there. And it's fun and exciting to watch. And it makes me tired knowing, like, you just did this yesterday, and now you're back here right now. That's good. That's amazing that you're out there, but you should be out there doing that. Anyways, why don't you quickly plug your gallery that's going on right now before we move on to Bigfoot?
This past week this was recorded last night. The Winter 46 Gallery, never before seen type show here in the Adirondacks or anywhere, but it is at the Lake Placid Center for the Arts, and it entails images of all 46 high peaks captured in the single season winter, and they're just on display for people to go see, and you can purchase some too. But there's also 46 other paintings done by 46 other artists from around the region, and the whole entire show is just high peaks galore. And so, if you have any relation or any attraction to the high peaks, it's just so satisfying to go in there and look at, because you can connect on a whole new level with the mountains from a just completely different perspective as art. And so that's, again, at the Lake Placid Center for the Arts, and it runs all the way through July 25th, and it's open every Wednesday through Saturday, 1 to 5 p.m. And so it's, I don't know, it's just, I would encourage any, you don't have to be a 46er, just anyone that loves the Adirondacks, or anyone. I mean, it's cool, even if you have no idea what the Adirondacks are, to go and check this out and learn something about these mountains.
It's also free to the public.
That's true.
So it frees up some money to maybe purchase a photograph and support these people who are creating this incredible art that you're seeing at the gallery. All right, Jonathan, time to talk Bigfoot and the Adirondacks. And with that, I'd like to welcome Seth Breedlove of Small Town Monsters to the show. Seth, congratulations on the release of your latest film. Thanks for choosing the Adirondacks as the place to make it, and welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and it's cool that I can be on the show, actually, because we listened to 46 of 46 while we were on the way to New York to make the movie. So it's one of the few podcasts I've managed to find time to check out in the last couple of years. I'm usually too busy, but this is one of the ones I was aware of, and it helped connect me to that part of the country when I'm not there, which is most of the time that I'm not there.
Well, I'm glad that it does that, and I appreciate that very much. I hear that a lot, and I feel like the Adirondacks is a weird spot in the sense of, like, it's a small place in terms of population. So most people who experience the Adirondacks are outside the park. So it is definitely like my podcast is created for exactly that, people outside the park to kind of get a little taste of it from wherever they are. So I'm glad that resonated with you, and thanks for checking it out. Much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into this latest film and your experiences here in the Adirondacks, let's just get a quick background about yourself. How'd you get into, investigating these small town monsters and the folklore that you're doing? And then how'd you get into shooting full-length feature films about all of this stuff?
Yeah, I have a really boring origin story when it comes to, like, the paranormal and this kind of stuff. So I got into all of this later in life. I wasn't interested in UFOs or Bigfoot or any of this kind of stuff when I was a kid. It came in my mid-20s, and mostly came about because I was doing medical billing and I was incredibly bored at work. So I started listening to podcasts, and that kind of opened the door to that world for me. And I started looking into sightings I grew up in a tiny town in Ohio called Bolivar. And so that's where I first kind of became aware of the Bigfoot subject and local sightings and things like that. From there, I was also doing some like freelance newspaper reporting and stuff like that at the time, and I had put together a book proposal called Small Town Monsters that was going to be basically like a collection of case files from around the country that focused more on the way those sightings and events can affect the culture of a region or a small town. Submitted that to like a ton of publishers, and they all rejected it. And so about a year later, I met up with some guys who were making documentary type work already, and we kind of put together the idea of tackling one of the subjects that was part of my initial book proposal, which was Minerva Monster, which became our first movie. There were a few cases in that book proposal. One of them was Minerva, the other was Whitehall. And so those were the first two movies we made were Minerva Monster and then Beast of Whitehall. And yeah, my introduction to like the Adirondack region and really upstate New York in general came in 2015 when we first there's a weird backstory to Beast of Whitehall. We actually filmed the movie twice, but the first time we filmed Beast of Whitehall, that was my introduction to that area, and we actually stayed in Wells, New York for the duration of that shoot, and spent a lot of time just kind of like wandering around the hills and stuff around Wells. But I could tell, it's so funny because like you could get a sense, obviously you hear 6 million acres, but I don't think you grasp how big that is. And so when I was there, I was getting a sense that like, I haven't seen a lot of this park, but I don't think that, even then I was aware of just how much of it I hadn't seen. And even today, I don't think I've seen a lot of it, considering how much land there is. But, we went back 3 times. So there were 4 more trips. 4 total trips to the Adirondack region. And it wasn't until we made this movie that I really got to experience that part of the country, I think.
Yeah, sure. It seemed like when you guys got into the High Peaks region, that was your first time like getting into the High Peaks in particular. Am I correct?
It was so funny, man. Like we climbed Mount Hadley, which is it's like southeast of the High Peaks or south. Yeah. We climbed that one, and we got to the top, and I was like, wow, look at all these mountains. This is gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. How much bigger can it get in the High Peaks? And then we went to the High Peaks, and it's like, it's crazy. It really is. Like I tried, like that became the real drive of the movie, was to demonstrate just the size and scope of that park. And, it is such an overlooked part of the country. And I just think, especially for West Coasters, it's like jaw dropping to them when they see the movie. That's the most consistent feedback I'm getting, is that, just the size of that area and the scope of those mountains is pretty incredible to people on the West Coast. And well, I guess all over the United States, but especially on the West Coast. And I just was on the West Coast back in April. We did a 8-day shoot in the Olympic Peninsula. And, I came back, and I keep getting asked which is more rugged, like the Olympic Peninsula or the Adirondacks. And it's like that in terms of ruggedness, I do think the Olympic Peninsula is way more rough. Like it's harder to travel around that area, but the Adirondacks, it's just the size of it is so insane that there's never a chance that I'll get to explore all of that area that I would want to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely the case. And I grew up here and I live here, and I'm always outside in the woods. And I've not been anywhere in this park, but I'm always out there, and I still feel like I have not been anywhere. I'm sure Jonathan would probably feel the same way, and he's actually literally out there every day.
One thing I did want to add, and that I related to a lot on the film, is even though I'm from Ohio, I grew up my entire life vacationing my summers in Speculator, right there in Wells. So like I know that whole area, the Lake Pleasant area, like so well. And so I have personally